What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Nightmares Podcast, where we talk about all things horror, movies, music, in this case, horror technology and the apps of the world. For those people who are checking out the new format, we got the brand new studio, and also we are only exclusively interviewing guests and having guests on. We're no longer doing the regular podcast where it's just us blabbing away. We have a lot more fun with guests anyway. So I got the usual guy here, Mr. Zach.
What's up?
He'll be talking on and off. And, of course, the awesome creator of Slasher, the thing that Zach says all the time after every end of every podcast, just like this. Zach, give a quick demo. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll lead you in. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and
Slasher.
The app for all things horror, the creator of it, Mr. Damon. How are you, sir? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So if you want to, I gave you kind of an introduction, but if you want to introduce yourself, because you may do it better than me, by all means.
Probably not, but that's fine. So I'm Damon. I created the Slasher app. It's the social network that is designed and built specifically for the horror genre. So that's kind of why I'm here.
Very, very nice, sir. We're very excited to have you. So, I know that you were on the podcast before, almost coming up on a year ago. Jesus.
Yeah.
Very, very, for those new people that are dropping by, if you wouldn't mind giving a quick, history lesson, all about how you got into this and why you decided to, obviously horror's touched your life in many different ways. I know that you were a musician before, but it's most people either become, mask makers or filmmakers or musicians in your case. But, not many people think to develop an app around horror, even though it's a really damn good idea. So I'm curious about how you came to this. How did this whole story start for you?
Sure. So I started getting into the conventions and all that stuff several years back. And it was really like I just wanted to go to every single one that I could get to, right? So I became friendly with a lot of the vendors at them, and usually I'd find out about the conventions through them, because who better than to find out from? So it would turn out that I would end up missing some, or even they wouldn't know about some that maybe were newer, or they just didn't hear about the dates or whatever. So I kind of said to myself, you know what? I'm tired of missing these things. So I put together a shared calendar for everybody. Bunch of friends. I just sent it out and said, hey, if there's any of these that you want to go to, let me know. We'll go together. If you want to vend at them, where they are, when they are. So it was pretty much every horror or horror related, horror adjacent convention in the US and Canada. So I found every single one of them for that year. And then, as time went on, I would see more and more things going on, like how Instagram has effectively banned the horror hashtag, the way that Twitter has treated horror filmmakers and that sort of thing, by, banning accounts over special effects. So, it really started to just bother me that those kinds of things were happening. And it was stifling artistic creativity that really certainly should not have been stifled in any way. It's fiction, it's fantasy, it's special effects. There's really no reason for that. There's a lot of people involved that were being hurt, whether it's directors, actors, writers, special effects makeup people,
entire studios actually. I remember. I don't know if you were privy to the controversy surrounding the Trauma Studios situation that happened. I think about 2 or 3 years ago. I know Zach remembers that because we had somebody that was on the podcast that kind of talked about that and talked about, I think it was an issue with Facebook and how they got banned, and it was a whole big thing.
Yeah, we were talking to Daniel Frankenstein. He was making his own feature. He was kind of branching off, doing his own thing. But he worked with Trauma for years. And I guess their whole either Facebook, YouTube, or hell, everything just got wiped. And it's like, yo, what the fuck? So, yeah, exactly. It sucks.
And meanwhile, a lot of those same platforms will straight up allow, like, porn. And it's like, well, if you're doing that, what's really the difference here? Because, you're talking about special effects makeup, stuff that's 100% fake. Stuff that's generally even just rated R, not beyond that. And look, I've got nothing against porn, obviously, but
none of us do. You're all good, brother. You're in good company.
But the fact of the matter is, why this weird, like, double standard where one thing is acceptable and one thing is not, where the one that's not acceptable is 100% artificial.
Why is it that, like, horror has always been, horror and like metal music have always been like the bastard redheaded stepchild of the entertainment industry, and I truly don't necessarily understand that. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts. Is in my eyes, there are two different types of horror movies, or a combination of the two. It's either the fun, balls to the wall, let's just make it as crazy and as special effects driven, as possible, or horror that wants to say something. Now, the level of success of what that message gets across is not is irrelevant to this conversation, or you get a combination of both. It's the difference between Freddy versus Jason and The Shining. This is a genre that talks about the deplorables of being a human being. So is it that people are shocked by it, or maybe people just don't want to face it? They don't want to face darkness within themselves, so they'd rather not even discuss it.
I think it's a whole lot of ignorance, honestly. First of all, you have the people out there that are not understanding what horror is and what horror does, right? Horror has a lot of potentially positive benefit for people. It's a massive form of escapism, and it's therapeutic for a lot of people, frankly. There are many of us who deal with, like, social anxiety and stuff like that, sometimes just massive stresses of everyday life. And we need something that's sort of the flip side of that. And what's the flip side of that than just, like you said, balls to the wall horror? So, I mean, you can have everything from The Shining, which is, like, really, really deep, to, like The Velocipaster, which is just like some raucous comedy. Yeah, there's blood and guts and gore, but it's fake. It's no more real than the puppets that you'd see in Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica or anything like that. So people need to stop blaming everyone else for the things that are wrong in society. Like, okay, why is there violence? It's not video games, right? It's not movies. It's the fact that people were simply not raised with the understanding of the difference between, should I do this or should I not do this? And look, I'm sure there's other factors there too, but to just, across the board blame something else is just a cheap, it's a cheap shot, really. So I mean, I think that people need to take responsibility for themselves and the people that they send out into the world, right? It's if they're so concerned about whether a movie or a video game or, you know, other people have such influence over their kids or other people's kids or whatever, then it's time to step up and just do better, you know?
Well, yeah, and also too is that, you know, you're talking about a very weak person at that point. I mean, if you're able to be so easily swayed by something that's, you know, fake
Right.
and everything else, you have either one of two problems. You are either a very weak person or you have, you know, issues. And I'm not disparaging anybody that has issues, you know, but you know, then we need to help those people and not let them, you know, lay waste to, you know, to thinking that these are, you know, reality. These pieces of art are reality.
I mean, it's true. I mean, that's a really difficult and unfortunate situation. That the fact is, yeah, there are people that are just disconnected from reality. And yeah, we need to be on top of things. We need to be providing help to the people who need it. That's definitely important. But society as a whole shouldn't be pointing the finger at, you know, one or two scapegoats. You know, heavy metal is not the devil. Fucking horror movie. It's kind of like, you know, the mom from The Water Boy. You know, everything is not devil.
The Ben Franklin is the devil. Well, you know, I don't know if you remember, like way back in the early '90s, Judas Priest was sued because of that. And I love what their tour manager said. Like like he's like, metal's not about that at all. If there were subliminal messages at all, it would be buy more albums. It wouldn't be kill yourself. That's their revenue source. Why in the world would they want to kill their other people who buy their albums?
Yeah. There's and I get it. Sometimes people are just so frustrated and at their wits' ends that they just don't know what else to do than just sort of flail around blaming everything else. I get it. It's frustrating. It's a difficult situation to be in. But the reality of it is that, you know, if people are going to be swayed in such a way, it's not because they saw a movie. It's because they don't have the values instilled in them to understand that they shouldn't do those things, you know? And that's really the critical part. That doesn't mean, you know, that people need to be, you know, wrapped in this bubble wrap of like religion or anything like that to be good people. It's not the case. There are, I mean, plenty of great people who don't believe in religion at all. And frankly, it causes more violence and death than just about anything else. So,
and I always find a deep irony in the fact that even Jesus of Nazareth hated religion. He hated organized religion. The irony is so fucking deep there. You know, and it's you know, and the other fucked up part is that, you know, is you're attacking the very thing that's going to help a lot of people to decompress from this stress. You're eliminating their outlets because their outlets make you uncomfortable. You know, and that's the thing, you know, it's one of those things that, like, you know, if you don't like what's being said, you know, there's so much variety of shit out there. Like, you don't need to be a participant within things and everything else. And if you don't like what's going on, instead of bitching, maybe perhaps create your own thing and then see where it goes and see where it takes you. And it may change your perspective on how the world works.
I mean, my opinion is this: if you're afraid of something, try to understand it better, because chances are you don't. And that's why it's scary, because it's something new, something different, and you are resistant to that. So the best thing anybody can do is at least get an understanding of the perspective, and try to get it, you know, because what's happening is that by saying that something is bad, like just inherently bad, right? Well, what that's doing is that's putting somebody, that's making somebody feel alienated, marginalized. You know, we shouldn't have that. I can't tell you how many people have joined Slasher and told me, hey man, you know, like, I can finally be myself here. And to me, that's like, wow, like, shit. What are you going through life like? Like, why are you not accepted otherwise? That sucks, you know? So I do take a lot of issue with these things because it's a whole lot of ignorance breeding ignorance instead of people actually trying to gain understanding and knowledge. So that way they can just stop blaming things that aren't really the problem. And you know, it's not a difficult thing to do, but people are so caught up in their own bullshit sometimes that, you know, there's they just don't get it. They don't see that sometimes they are the problem.
And that's got to be
And
a point of pride for you, to hear feedback like that, and to say, you know, to say, hey, you know, this is a place where I feel like I belong, and I feel I found a community. I see the same thing and feel the same thing at the cons, who are, you know, and that's
yeah,
here's another twisted point of irony. The people, the horror fans are the nicest fucking people you ever meet.
absolutely.
It would shock people that are not, you know, and not only are they the nicest people, they're also the most willing to help and willing to give information. I mean, just very quickly, my girlfriend was at one of the cons with me, but with the specific intent of going there to talk with artists about about how they got into things and where she can go, because she wants to go to the shows and sell her artwork and things of that nature. And I remember she pulled me aside and she said, "Mark, I can't believe how much not only people were willing to talk to me, but also take the time with a whole line behind me and tell me, you know, like, hey, oh, well, you know, you can do it the way you want to do it, but hey, just so you know, this is how I did it. I started with this show, and then, hey, here's the phone number of this person, and here's the person that you need to talk to over here at this show." And she's like, I would have expected them to be nice, but never in a million years be willing to be as open with information and be willing to help with their dreams. You know, it's an insane thing. I don't think that's exists anywhere else.
Well, it's funny because there are some people out there that are banging a drum saying that there's no such thing as community when it comes to horror. And, you know, my response to that is, have you been paying attention? Like, or are you just looking at like toxic online forums like Facebook and Twitter and shit like that? Like, people who are in this community, especially at the conventions on Slasher and stuff like that, they're amazing. There is absolutely community around, you know? And like, I think the incidents are more localized to certain places and certain things than just generalized and running rampant. You know, I come across very few shitty people on a regular basis. And I think when people are placed in an environment that is built around respect and like mutual understanding, and camaraderie, well, you know, when you start to foster something, you tend to breed that, right? So if you're fostering a shitty environment, yeah, you're gonna breed shittiness, right? If you're fostering people to be supportive, to know that, hey, there's other people like you that also feel pushed away from mainstream society, and you know, we just want to enjoy ourselves just like you do, well, of course you're going to breed that as well. So it really comes down to, well, what are you doing to change this? What are you doing to affect this? So I think there needs to be a lot of you know, people looking inward versus just, you know, blaming, because it doesn't help. It doesn't do anything other than foster more. So, you know, they say be the change you want to see in the world. It works. It's a thing. You know, it's misery loves company. It's true.
Yeah, that's so true.
If you're swimming in shit, you're going to be surrounded by shit. If you pull yourself out and try to do something different, then you're not going to be in that anymore. You're going to do something different. And what you do is what you'll be surrounded by. You know, and I don't mean to get off on like some hippie tangent or anything, but
I love it how this is like, this is like now fucking like, you know, hippie has become against, like, once again against the mainstream, but these are not like, these are things. And you know what the fucked up part is, and as I was thinking as you were chatting about this, I was contemplating one simple fact, and it's kind of scary, is that there may be a strong possibility that horror is the last line of defense against a total corruption of our culture. You know, more specifically pop culture. You know, there was a time when movies and entertainment and music were the very things that binded us together, regardless of anybody's background, political affiliations, race, creed, sexual identity, whatever the case may be, and that has even been corrupted, with the exception of horror. For the most part, there's still, you know, there's studio shit and everything else, but like, is it putting too much pressure on us to identify that we may be the last community that really, you know, that isn't influenced by division and is accepting and bonding over this very you know, what some people would say perverse source of entertainment?
I think that regardless of if there is or not, there's always a commentary, whether it's subtle or overt, right? Jordan Peele is great at that. For example, he's coming out and he's in an interesting and not so direct way, holding a mirror up in front of, you know, his experiences. And I think that's really cool, because it gives artistic merit, and it gives commentary to say, here are things that I see in the world. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's good to have different perspectives in life in general, whether it's in horror or otherwise, because understanding different perspectives makes us smarter and better people. And that way we're able to live and act intelligently versus just, you know, animalistically flail out at whatever is not matching up to what we would typically just hold to, you know. So I think it's important for us to see different perspectives that people bring into film, whether it's in horror or not, because it could open us up to just understanding something that we didn't previously, or seeing things from a different way that might make sense a little bit more. Look, there's some stuff where it's just it's completely face value. It is what it is, and you know, some people just want to beat you over the head with it. It happens.
It's just a funhouse mirror. That's all art is. It's just a funhouse mirror to society. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. It's funny because where I live, I'm in like the New York metro area, right? I'm in the New York City suburbs. Mm-hmm. So a couple years ago, there was this British company that was setting up one of their I don't know if it was a franchise or a chain or whatever it was, but basically it was a location for people to participate in esports, right? Well, they were in the bottom floor of a local mall, and they have their soft launch. The city comes in and goes.
Hold on, real quick. So you said esports.
Yes.
Can you just for anybody who might not know what that is, can you add a little bit more context?
Essentially, it's gaming, competitive gaming, video gaming.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but I wanted to add a little bit more.
Consider the NFL, but like video game related. Like it's like the most competitive like video game, like Overwatch. Is Fortnite an esport now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any major video game is like it's considered a competitive sport now.
So this company, they do their soft launch of their esports location, and on the day of their soft launch. They didn't even get to open, but they had everything set up and ready to go. The city comes in and goes, "Oh no, you can't do this. Our arcades are illegal here. Arcades, a place to play fucking video games, is illegal, is banned, right? Because some local religious leaders decided, oh no, we can't have this because it's something that promotes violence and the types of behavior that are undesirable in this community." Okay, fucking video games.
When was this?
This was a few years ago, literally like 3 or 4 years ago.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So two things about this, right? One, why did they even let them get that far in their construction and building out of this location? Because that sucks. They spent like, I don't know how much money just setting up that location. I think it was like a couple $1 million or something. And two, why the fuck are anybody in the religious realm having anything to do with legislation in a place that is supposed to be a little bit more elevated than, oh, you know, this is bad. Meanwhile, 2 blocks away, there is an entire strip with nothing but bars where there are cops that need to be parked permanently at night to deal with fights that happen regularly. Explain that shit to me.
It's insane. Like, you know, here's the thing is too is and I'm a big I forgot his name, Michael Francis. He's a little gangster from New York. He's got a pretty popular YouTube channel. You know, he's one of the boys, and it is a great book called Mafia Government, and it's all about how the government behaves like the mafia now, and it's amazing how things like this, you know, are targeted based on the whims of extremist groups that legislation are too much of, frankly, pussies to just hey, this is good for the community financially. Yep. I don't really care what you think. They fill out the permits. They're an illegal business, you know, and not getting the whim. And it sounds like that somebody didn't get paid because it is New York. And they're just like Chicago. So a politician didn't get greased, you know, or a religious leader didn't get a donation to their mega church, you know, or in other cases an activist group didn't get their donation. So we're gonna you know rip up, you know, everybody into a frenzy. We're gonna picket places, which the mob used to do with the unions, and then we're gonna disguise it under the guise of some type of moral reason, whether it be activists or whether it be religious groups. I don't care what it is. It's all the same to me. And ultimately crush small businesses and people that have dreams, and also people that could have been provided fucking jobs in a very, you know, right now in a very tough economic time. But because you had an opinion and got your panties in a bunch, you know, and somebody didn't get paid, you know, well, fuck those people. Fuck the local community and the money you would bring in, you know, and the less bullshit it would cause in the bars because we didn't get our wheels greased, and we're going to cause a moral uprising. I'm surprised that more horror cons, you know, you ever notice this, how more horror cons don't get picketed. It almost surprises me. How more, you know, either, you know, activist groups come in because horror is quote unquote misogynistic and violent, or religious groups come in and say how it is evil, not moral, the devil's work, whatever they decide. And, you know, maybe they carpool on the way there. I don't know, the activists and the religious groups. So, you know, it's very, you know, that's such a fucked up story.
Yeah, I mean, the people I feel bad for are the people who went through all the effort to set that up, spent all their money to do that, just to be told, oh wait, no, never mind, like shut down after the fact. Like you don't do that. Like there's got to be something in place. But I mean, apparently there was something where they didn't quite file according to the way that they would have wanted them to. Like they didn't categorize the business as an arcade. So that was the issue. But the fact that that's even an issue at all is just like, that sucks. It's and all of the kids and people that would have gone there and enjoyed that and had a place to connect with people who are like them, where they might have otherwise not left their homes. That's really an unfortunate situation. And I think that's the type of thing that's really just shitty and deserves to be shut down, is causing that kind of like terrible situation for people and taking away their choices. That is a choice that should not be taken away. So what they're basically saying is, you know what? You can't play video games together, but what you could do is you can go get fucking wrecked at the bar, get into a fight, and maybe go to jail for the night. What kind of example is that? Like, and look, I have nothing against bars and stuff like that, but I definitely don't support like the fact that there have to be cops out there every night because there are fights all the time.
I was gonna say that's fucking ridiculous, because it's like here in Chicago we have. So I'm assuming you have no beercades in New York, because apparently there's a law against having an arcade in New York. Like, do you have any of those where it's essentially it's a bar that has arcades and stuff?
So there's barcade. There's places like that. Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is why I'm completely perplexed by this whole situation.
Yeah.
The fact that they exist in other parts. I mean, but I think it's a regional thing in the county.
Okay.
Because we're not in New York City. So I do think it's a regional thing here. But the fact that that's even a concern in any way, on top of the fact that we're crossing that line over the separation that should exist between reality and fantasy, because I have no patience for that sort of thing. I just don't, because you have these people that are claiming to be these infallible do-gooders, and they're not. They're absolutely the opposite. They're fucking everyone else up for things that are not based in reality, if we want to be frank about it. So these are the types of issues that I see and that I have, because I was never a popular kid in school or anything like that. And like, I see all these other kids that have opportunities to do things that they don't socialize as much and stuff like that, and they prefer to stay to themselves or have the hobbies that they have that they enjoy. Give it to them. Like, what the fuck?
And they wonder why that they're producing an entire generation of mentally unstable people, because they've locked them in the fucking basement where they're alone with their own thoughts and only the internet to comfort them, which is a warped sense of reality. It's not real. It's theater. So instead of actually being allowed to be outside and corresponding and communicating and socializing with individuals, and I think that's Damon too, and to get back to.
We're still in Greca. We're still in Greca.
Shut up.
The government's after us. That bitch is listening to us. I know it's nobody else. Run, America, we love you. We're okay with it. No, fuck that. No, I don't care. I have too much of a punk rock streak in me. But that being said, I think it's very interesting that you've developed an app that kind of gets back to what the purpose of technology and social media was supposed to be, which was bringing about a community and bringing about a way for people to connect that normally wouldn't have connect. Now, there's goods and bads on both sides of that, and also more importantly though is taking that technology and being able to meet out in the real world and knowing that person now in the real world, and it's become this very sad world where only people connect with technology and they exist in this little warped sense of reality. Like, it was the commercial for the Metaverse where it was two neighbors that were I don't know if you've seen this, two neighbors that were next to each other, and they literally were connecting in the metaverse and everything else, and they were becoming great friends and everything else, but they would pass each other in the hallway every day, never wave to each other and everything else, but they would connect all the time. And the end of the commercial, they never fucking meet ever. And I'm like, and people are celebrating this commercial, and I'm like, this is a fucking tragedy. This is horrifying.
The metaverse actually is something that I am personally not a fan of right now. I get it, and I get that there is potentially beneficial application to it, but what they're trying to do is something that is not for the people that need it. They're trying to push everybody into it. So the world is going to end up like the movie Ready Player One, basically.
Jesus.
You're going to have neighbors, you're going to have friends. You're just not going to have them in real life. And you will be stuck in this, everybody's like, well, not everybody, but like
the pods.
You'll see people post going like, are we in a simulation? Not yet.
We're on our way.
You're going to be if you decide to take part. I think the internet is phenomenal for people to being able to connect, right? For people being able to share ideas. The way it was originally designed, was for scientists to share ideas and information and to enrich their knowledge and life in general on Earth, right? And I think that a lot of that is still very, very, very much alive and well. I think that it's become bastardized quite a bit because you've got nefarious groups who are trying to use it for personal gain versus societal benefit. I look at Facebook and I go, this is just a cesspool, man. Like there is. It started out as something really cool, a way for people to stay connected, right? Family, friends that aren't close to each other. So now you've got a way to stay in touch, to keep up with each other's lives and all that sort of stuff. If you're remote, if you're in other countries, you're too far away from each other. You just maybe don't like to go out, whatever it may be. That was amazing, right? You have a way for people to connect in meaningful ways. But then, you have these elements now that are basically fostering a society of
addicts.
Of disrespect.
Well, yeah, that too, but not reality. The shit you would say over the internet and everything else, you would never say to somebody's face, or at least most of us would never have the balls to do it. I would, if I really hated somebody that much, I would tell them to their face. But then also too is I'm willing to accept the consequences of the fact that somebody might try to take a swing at me. That is the reality of it. Like, if you piss off somebody enough, although, nowadays, who the fuck knows, I think people would have no idea how to present the conflict. The couple of those crazy guys on in Facebook and TikTok talking about the snowflakes test, saying that if somebody literally spit in your mother's face, like the millennials, they would, they were given a choice of different options. One of them would be to try to understand why the other person spit in your mother's face. They opposed to, and the one guy's like, what the fuck does that have anything to do with it? That dude spit in your mother's face. Punch them in the fucking face. They or grabbed your, my favorite one though, they did a little bit of adjustment, or grabbed your girlfriend's ass. They that's a real fire way to knock somebody into yesterday, or tomorrow, or wherever you want to knock them and everything else. So it's amazing what people in their distorted reality have the balls to say on online versus in reality.
Like you said, people don't do it in reality because they're nice and safe behind a screen.
Yeah.
They don't have to deal with consequences because there aren't any. Words on a screen, inconsequential when it comes down to it, right? They may suck, they may be shitty, but what are they ultimately going to accomplish? Nothing. So, so it's really just a bunch of people like beating their chest and spinning wheels when there's no reason for it. But yeah, I mean, like when you have the ability to provide a benefit, right? People who would not otherwise necessarily be able to meet each other or connect, that are similar, that can understand one another better, and not to necessarily form a group that just isolates themselves from everyone else because they're this group of people who understand each other, but because they're coming together and they get one another on a level that other people don't, and provide a level of support and usefulness and benefit to each other. I think that's a big deal. You know, I always wanted to really just bring people together and to connect them and help them find one another, so that way they can enjoy themselves together and do interesting things, do fun things, and just enjoy life, right? Because if people aren't doing that, if people are just miserable, then what are we doing?
Not much. Not you know, sitting here in addiction land and everything else, and just not progressing forward, and just frankly being fucking miserable. You know, it's an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, it's not beneficial. It's not. So, you know, I really do like to see people enjoy themselves. I like to see people happy. I like to see people have opportunities to do things that maybe they didn't have before, they didn't realize they had before. So I think providing that instead of roadblocks is really something that people can and should benefit from. You know, I don't think it's it's not all about, you know, how can people make the quickest dollar. It's about how can you enjoy this moment? What can you do right now that is worth doing?
Absolutely.
And you know, people can find success. They can learn to be successful. They can find other people to do that with, sure. But are they happy doing it? Are they enjoying what they do?
My old man said, the ultimate Reaganomic capitalist. He said, always do what you love and the money will follow. It's like, don't worry about that. Just do what you love to do, man, and then everything else will. You know, obviously you got to be smart, but like it'll square itself out eventually. But you know, finding something that you love to do that other people will love that you're doing it, and trust me, he's like the money and all that shit will fall into place.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that, and I want to build a place that fostered creativity, right? That gave people opportunity, like I said, that gives us a place to go. I really always wanted to do this and I never did, but these people are kind of making me feel like I can. So by fostering that creativity and the artists and the artistry and all that stuff, I think that people will start to do those types of things, like you're saying. Like they're going to do what they love and they're going to try it. You know, it may be slow, it may be testing the waters, dipping their toe in or whatever, but getting there is really the critical thing, right? So hopefully people are able to see that, you know what, I can try this and I should try this, because there are people here that maybe, you know, will like what I'm doing. Maybe they'll give me some feedback and I can go out and evolve and improve and do better and better and better until they're like, you know, until they're the next big filmmaker or artist or author. So I think things like that are just really, really important, because that's useful, that's beneficial to provide. You know, not roadblocks to say, well, you know what, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or there's no money in this. Um, does there? I mean, yeah, of course there needs to be to some degree. People need to be able to survive, but can you still enjoy your life doing something that you like? And I think most of the time the answer is yes. People just have to understand how to get there. And I think that's really the key thing, is just getting people together and showing them, you know what, you can do stuff. You should do stuff. Just think about it and try it and see. And if you love it enough, then you'll refine and you'll try again and keep going, and just, you're enjoying yourself either way, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's a really powerful thing. And I think really in general, society can benefit from that. Not necessarily just the horror genre, you know. I think that there's definitely a lot of people outside of that who can benefit, you know.
Absolutely. You know, there was a great quote to a motivational speaker's big bodybuilder guy. I forgot his name, but he said, "Do you know where the most talent lies in one place? The graveyard. The most unrealized potential is in the graveyard.
Sure.
And people who were too afraid to take the chance and really try to give. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, you know, people do need reassurance. People need other people. I don't give a shit what anybody says. People need other people. Even if it's just one person and everything else, people do need other people. You know, and I slowly morph Zach into needing other people, coming from the hermit that he was, and now he's fucking going to cigar lounges and smoking cigars with me, and and going out to bars, and he's like, it's like I fucking hate you. You showed me how good life can be. Him and a couple other of his
I miss
buddies.
my cave.
Yeah, well, now that he knows that there's a whole world out there, he can't go back. But you know, but you need to foster a community that can allow you to do that, especially when you have something pseudo site specific like horror. You know, you need, because it's outside of the box of the normal realm of things. It isn't like doing normal art or being a normal filmmaker or a musician. You know, it's something very site specific. It's not overly specific. Like, you know, I guess if you wanted to do, you know, your whole life passion was Japanese tentacle, you know, horror, not porn, but horror. I guess if that's your thing, like, I mean, that might be a little bit more site specific, but horror is one of those interesting things that it's site specific, but everybody knows it. Everybody knows horror, but it's site specific if you want to be involved into it and a fan of it and be involved and heavily ingratiated into the community. You know,
Yeah.
so that's what you've offered to a lot of people and you've provided to a lot of people.
Yes, I mean, so basically, art is designed to elicit thought and emotion, right? So, you know, you could make any kind of horror movie if your goal is to elicit emotion. You know, if you want to instill fear into somebody, or you know, the somebody escapes at the end, and you want to sort of instill a moment of joy or whatever, you can do that. You know, you're basically like a puppet master pulling the strings of people's emotions. I mean, you could do that with any movie. So, you know,
But there's something so primal about horror. It's part of the lizard brain. So, you know, as we've discussed in several podcasts, I mean, it's in the lizard brain. So, you know, you know, when you can tap into something that's so primal, that could be that could be even more powerful than almost any other emotion.
yeah. Well, I mean, when you're dealing with life or death, there's really nothing more primal than that.
It's pretty black and white. It's pretty black and white on that point.
Yeah.
So shifting up a little bit here, you know, I know that you had a few exciting things and new things, that you had messaged me and you said, hey, great timing, of you reaching out. I got some new things to discuss, and because I know that it's been maybe a year and some change since you've been on the podcast. So what's going on with the app? What are we evolving and heading towards, sir?
So we are working on the website right now. It's coming out this fall.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know Zach is very excited because he has been wanting a desktop version for a while.
This is nice to hear. I appreciate this.
I'm glad you like that. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I've spent more time developing the features that are going to be in the website than I have the app. There's a lot of stuff that's coming. It may not roll out all at once. It may be, stepped feature at a time, but the website is coming very, very, very soon. Basically it's ultimately going to have more stuff in the app. So what we're doing is we're going to shift our focus a little bit to the website. And then we're going to release all these really cool features over hopefully a short period of time. And then we're going to rebuild the mobile app. So the website will be where everyone's going to ultimately want to go for a while. Then we're going to completely rebuild the mobile app. And then they're both going to kind of be in sync with each other with as far as all the new features go. So I'm super, super excited. There's going to be a lot of stuff for everybody now.
Anything I can goat you into premiering right here on the podcast?
I mean, there's going to be a lot, man. I know one of the things, there's going to be a section for podcasters. So we're going to basically create a nice.
There's Zach and I go on the wide going, yeah. That's awesome, man. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be a cool directory for podcasts. People are going to be able to have listings of their shows. They're going to be able to share them. People can rate them. You can get feedback. You could post. Your episodes will just come right in, just like they do on all the services now.
Sweet.
So there's going to be a lot of ability for all the podcasters.
So that's. I wanted to ask you a question about that feature. So will we be uploading directly to Slasher, or will it be through like Anchor or something like that? So how will that work?
It's going to be through the way that you're doing it now.
Okay.
If you're posting to your site, if you're posting your RSS, we'll get it.
Okay, sweet. Yep. Thank you.
Nice. So, all right, I do have one question though, because I know that this has been brought up before. Because nothing, part of me, would love to just exclusively, post some content directly onto Slasher. Will there be a point in 5 years, 10 years where you will be able to upload videos directly to that, or is that just not in your plans? I mean, because technically, because on your email it says slasher.tv. So there is, I was like, there's something to be said there. I'm like, that this might turn into something, a little bit bigger, down the road. And you're smiling, so obviously there's something in the back of your head over there.
I mean, there's Easter eggs everywhere. People just haven't really picked them out yet. So that's really all I can say.
Oh, fair enough.
Copy that.
I like to have a certain degree of mystery because I don't necessarily want to say how much or how little of anything there's going to be. I honestly picked the TV top level domain because I figured, you know what? People associate horror with movies. So this is an easy way to do it because .com was taken and they wanted like 10 grand for it.
Holy shit.
It's a lot more now.
Well, I'm sure maybe you get up to that big awesome money and be able to get it someday. So it's off the chessboard.
I'll send you this clip, so if anybody ever asks why you chose .tv versus .com, you could just be like, refer to this clip.
Yes, refer to the $10,000 pay that I would have to shell up to get it and everything else. And now they know that you're active, so like we're gonna keep rising this value as your stock goes up, that price goes up.
Yeah, I honestly I'm pushing so hard because I just want to see how high it goes. Because I'm not buying it.
That's one way of doing it.
That is a testament, sir, to how successful your app can get, man, to that price. I tell you what, that might be something fun that I do. I'll check it like every quarter and everything else. I'll send it to you. I was like, brother, Brother, it's up to 20 grand now, man. Your stock's going up, man. It's going up, brother. We're gonna be offering public shares pretty soon.
Right.
Okay, so let's chat really quickly too about and again, we might delve into some areas where you can't necessarily do it. But when you started this whole thing, besides community, and everything, did you have an ultimate goal of where you wanted to get to? Did you want to get it to a certain? Was it a size goal? Was it a vision goal? What's the ultimate? If say for instance I handed you a $500 million. I can't. I don't have a dollar, but to give you. Although when you do become public, I want to know because I'm going to be in that initial public offering. But nonetheless, if venture capital came around and said, "Hey, we love this. Here's quarter of a billion, $500 million, whatever the case may be," it's honestly not the first time that venture capital has just thrown shit at fucking apps. It happens every day. So I'm very curious on what would be those steps and what would be your ultimate vision if money wasn't an issue.
Sure. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have people offer to invest. So that's really, really cool. So I don't have any final deals with anybody yet. But everything is always a consideration to me. I always look at everything. I take everything seriously. And, I do try to plan ahead. I do try to be somewhat strategic about things and smart about things, because I want to keep this going for as long as I possibly can. I want to build horror. I want to foster the whole genre, really, and I want to be a part of the cog in the machine that is elevating it. We have so many awesome publications and websites. I want to do my part in this too, and really just keep helping to elevate it, and create a great space for people to enjoy and to use as a resource to find more stuff, So in terms of goals, though, there's a lot of goals, right? If you were to say, like, where do I want to be in 5 years? You probably won't recognize what we have today, because I've already planned things out like a few years ago for how I'd like to do things, what I'd like to encompass, right? We're not even anywhere near starting. So like I have enough stuff to do for 5 years or possibly even more. This is a very big project that's not just one thing. It's this amalgamation of all different things, right? So you can look at it and go, well, you've got your social aspect, right? You've got the feed. So that's kind of like your Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You've got the movie database, which is kind of like an IMDb or a Letterbox or something like that. Mm-hmm. You've got the dating feature, which is kind of like a Bumble or a Tinder. So there is just going to be more and more and more that that's really just sort of branching out in all different kinds of ways and touching all different kinds of aspects that frankly people are just not going to expect. And that's something that I like, because I want people to be pleasantly surprised by, wow, you're doing this for us that's really like a huge help, a huge benefit. And that's what I like to do, is I like to give people stuff that's useful, right? And stuff that is meaningful in their lives in one way or another. So, feature-wise and company-wise, there's definitely so many goals. I have goals as granular as, I'd like to reach X number of users by a certain time. I'd like to have, X number of features out by a certain time. And I want to have a certain number of people, enjoying those features by a certain time. So there's all these things that just have to, come together, like all these different puzzle pieces. And it's interesting because things change, things evolve. So, I have to constantly pivot and do other things to make sure that I'm taking care of what people really need at the time, and make sure that I'm sort of getting ahead of things so I can deliver the things that I'm trying to deliver in a way, in a time and in a way that's going to work for everybody. So there's a lot. Wow.
It's going to be dope. So anyway, so we
to test that.
The
So, why choose Slasher over all the other social media apps?
Sure, that's a really good question. I mean, obviously, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a professional in the horror genre, this is where people are. This is where horror fans and professionals are coming together. It's a really robust and active community, and we're growing all the time. What some of my favorite things are, one thing that people don't realize is that if you're coming from like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or something like that, it's really hard to build followings there. On Slasher, you will grow your connections faster than any other social network. And you'll be able to do it organically and easily. We have features that they don't have that make it super, super simple to connect with people very quickly. And I mean, it's been massive. I saw one guy came on and he had over 1,000 friends within 24 hours.
That's insane.
And it wasn't chance. It wasn't algorithms. It was just people wanted to connect.
So for the record, I just added 3 people as he was saying that sentence.
And the cool thing is, you're not just following somebody. They are also connected to you. So it's a mutually beneficial thing here. So you're going to see their stuff. They're going to see your stuff. That's how it should be, in my opinion. Now we're sort of leveling the playing field with that. The other thing is that there are no post algorithms. So instead of making people bust their ass to come up with content all the time, if you post something, it will show up on the timelines of everyone you're connected with. They just have to scroll past and see it. So that's really the only thing. So if you post, it's getting to 100% of your connections. It's not going to 1%. It's not going to 10%. It's going to all of them. So imagine the kind of reach that you would have not having to play games on Instagram and figure out their algorithm every time they change it.
Or pay.
They're making you work.
Or pay.
Them. Right. And it's basically pay to play, or you work for them. And it's a lot. And I think that's a huge ask for anybody. I want to make sure that you can come in and do what you want to do, and people can find you, people can see what they want to see and enjoy your stuff. Not that you have to slave for it, because that sucks. We're not trying to make people like bust their ass to be seen. You make your connections and people are going to scroll. And if you create stuff that they like, they're going to keep going and they're going to check you out more often. We're not making it a challenge. We're not making it a hurdle. We're trying to knock that down for everybody. That's something that I think is a big deal. Because we're really making it easier. And it's funny because a lot of people see that and they're just like, yeah, I don't know. And because it's so easy, they're apprehensive because it's so easy sometimes. And it's like, no, it's just that easy. Like, it's fine. You don't need to like bust your ass for this. Here it is.
See, I always joke. I know when I tell people that, I was like, it's like very old school Facebook. Like that's how Facebook was back in the day. It was very much like just, hey, 100% of what you see, very easy to get friends and everything else. It wasn't, the algorithm was far more simplistic back in the day than it is now. It's so diluted and moved around and used for, you know, a lot of other profit, you know, motivated things of, you know, they've milked it past advertisements. I mean, and again, you have advertisements too, that are on there, you know, so I mean, that's how everybody makes money, but you know, it's gone way past that. It's gone way past into some other, like, every angle is for the purposes of just making money. Like, you know, and it's also, it hurts more when it's blatant. Everyone loves to buy, but nobody likes to be sold.
Yeah, you're right, and I completely agree with that. You know, we're doing our best to keep everything fair and reasonable. You know, I don't like a lot of these methods of like, well, your views are going to drop if you post the link that's going to take you off of our app. No, if you post a link, you post a link. If people like our app, they're going to come back. If people like your content, they're going to come back. We don't have to lock people into this walled garden of our app to get people to stay and to monetize people as much as possible. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to create something enjoyable and useful. And all these other sites and apps, they're trying to figure out every possible way to keep you there. Right.
And also, more importantly, keep you in within the bubbles inside of the app, you know, and not explore other ideas and other points of view. And you know, and you're just saying, hey, no, everybody's available to everybody. Like, I'm not going to put you into a box. I'm not, you know, and also too, at the same time, like in this kind of realm, it would seem almost arbitrary and silly to do that. What the fuck are you gonna do? You're gonna separate the K horror fans from the J horror fans? The fuck are you gonna do? Like, you know, like it would be so, you know, arbitrary at that point to do it in the genre. I get other, you know, Facebook and their whole political, you know, and how we're gonna separate everybody into their own echo chambers, but you're like, no, I fucking hate echo chambers. Like, I want everybody to hear everybody. I want everybody to have the microphone, and everyone can hear everyone's voices and be exposed to different things.
Right, and you're right, because what they're doing is they're giving people a reason to stay there, but they're giving people a bad reason to stay there, in my opinion. You know, by only hearing your own opinion repeating over and over and over from other people. Yeah, why would you want to leave? You know, but I think it's important that everybody shares their opinions and does that in a way that is not negative or not bad. You know, people can share opinions. They can have differing opinions. They can still have fun with one another. You know, everything doesn't have to be so polarizing in the world. And I think that's part of the problem with a lot of the mainstream stuff is that they're pushing everybody to be polarized and to be forced into these, like you said, echo chambers, more specific containers. And those containers become smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just you in it. And that's not beneficial, you know.
And kind of sad and very sad. Very, very sad.
In my opinion, it's actually dangerous, you know, because when your opinion is the only one that exists, you're going to push to impart that on other people. And where does that get us? You know,
it doesn't get us anywhere good. And then also too is the echo chambers, you know, in bold, you know, your biases. They you know, if you're constantly, had rainbows up your skirt every single day and everything else, and instead of somebody saying, no, that's not a rainbow, that's just a bunch of bullshit. You're gonna believe your own Kool-Aid. You're gonna drink your own Kool-Aid constantly. And for what? And also too is. And also you keep it fun. It's fun. It's we're just talking about fucking movies and art and shit. Like it's not as serious. Like and that's something I love that Poltergeist OD does. Like and you become his safe haven because he talks about it all the time. He's like, this is the only place I haven't been banned yet. It's the only place that they let me in and let me be myself.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I mean, I'm happy to be able to do that for people. I love to be able to do that for people. I think it's important. I think it's a shame that it's come down to that. Where some guy just comes out of the woodwork and has to fucking build something because like all of these massive companies with so much money can't get their shit together and they're just hurting people. You know, I'm here because I see what's going on. I want to make sure that people can just enjoy themselves and have a good time and connect, you know, because I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to be heard and understood and not necessarily feel alone in the world. So I think it's important to have a community like this where you've got other people you can be friends with who may understand you, you know, understand where you're coming from, what your interests are, and you can connect in those ways. You can connect about those things. You know, those aren't the only things that we have. We're still people, and we still have many varied interests and endeavors and just day-to-day things that we do. You know, but horror is what brings us together, and it's the commonality that we all share. It's the thing that we all enjoy together without having to worry about, oh no, I shared a picture of like, you know, some entrails and now I'm banned from a website because they didn't realize that these are special effects and they're fake, and they are in fact a still from an R-rated movie.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? And I think that there's something powerful here. You know, and I could say this on the podcast because I've said it a dozen times. Zach has said it. Other people have said it. Is that, you know, I think something that we share. You know, you, Damon in the app Slasher, and then Zach and myself, and MHN, is that we see a problem with our respective areas of turf. And we don't necessarily want to rip down those systems. We want to build a better system. And what I mean by that is, Zach and I see the failures and the trappings and the general decay of the Hollywood system, and we have no problem with it existing. Let it exist. It's fine. But the thing is that in order for things to evolve and move, you need competition. You need a contradicting idea. You need something else to come along and say, hey, maybe we can do it better. And that's our vision for the company, is to essentially, we want to steal Disney's business plan. We want to be the Disney of horror. We want to steal their business plan of movies, music, television, merchandise, and then hopefully one day theme parks. And steal their business plan and give it to horror, while also providing a place that the mainstream system, which has become its own, you know exactly what it is. And I don't need to go into further detail of that, but and people that have been ostracized from that system, or people that don't necessarily agree with that system, and they're like, you know what, I want to join these guys because they're going to do something different and something better. And then I truly believe that you share that same vision, but for the tech world, for the app world, you share that vision of knowing that there's something rotten in Stalingrad. And you're like, I want to get the fuck out of Stalingrad, and I want to go build my own town over here. Stalingrad can burn to the fucking ground for all I care, but I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna build my own culture and my own thing, and then and that's ultimately something rather, and I'll say this, rather beautiful, that we both share this vision of how it could be better.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it really is, that simple, honestly. It just comes down to that at the end of the day. Creating that space and saying, you know what, we want something better, we need something better, and then just getting out there and hauling ass and making it,
As Nike would say, just do it.
But that's the ultimate, result.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fantastic. Zach, do you have any other additional questions before we wrap it up to the question of the podcast?
Nope.
He's like, oh, we've covered everything we possibly can. Damon, did you be?
I'm just not that smart.
He is. Don't let him fool you. He's a dog waiting in wait, man. He's smarter than anybody realizes.
Don't you ever call me a dog again.
Rough. Anyway, so I have a question of the podcast. So what is something from the horror community that you would love to see them do? The something that hasn't really been tackled, yet, that you're like, you know what, man, I'd like to see this happen in the next 5 years. And then in truest Nightmare podcast tradition, we always let the guests go first, but they do have the option to pass. Although, not to put any pressure on you, but nobody has ever passed before. So they've been able to just jump right in. So, so Damon, what is something that you've not necessarily seen from the horror community that you would like to see them accomplish and do?
I think I'd like to see people dive a little deeper, take more risks, push further, break outside of the boundaries. So, for example, and I know that's a really vague statement, a bunch of statements, right? Let's take movies, for example, right? There are so many remakes these days, and the reason for them is because they're safe, right? There's a brand attached to them. They're safe. The only way we're going to get anywhere is for people to break outside of that safety net, to start creating things that haven't been done before, or at least do it in ways that haven't been done before. Make a spectacle that is new and unique and different. And look, I'm not by any means criticizing or complaining. Frankly, there's a bunch of remakes I liked. And I think that there were some that were absolutely worth being remade. But at the same time, I do like to see people come up with new ideas. Sometimes the tropes are great. Sometimes it's time to forget about them, to ignore them, pretend they didn't exist, and do your thing. If somebody has an idea, think about it. Think about how you can make your idea, how you can give it life, and how you can make it do what you want it to do. Whether it's to scare the shit out of somebody, or to fuck with somebody's mind, or to do something that just takes somebody on an emotional roller coaster the whole way. Do it. Think about how to do it, and do it your way. Don't worry about what other people are doing, because that's what sets people apart. That's what creates art that's worth watching and viewing and understanding and taking in. I think that's a really important thing, is that people need to understand that you don't have to follow the template, because it's clear that there is, just like rock music, rock music, pop music, it's all template based, right? And it's a pretty understood situation, but the people that break outside of that, sort of paralleling the music industry, right? Like, they're playing it incredibly safe right now. We're not going to see another Nirvana until they start to experiment. We're not going to see another musical shift where we're getting an evolution. We're going to keep getting the same thing over and over and over and over until somebody gives a chance to something different, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that I give a chance to something different, because variety is incredibly important and necessary in order for us to evolve, just even as people. But I think we can do a lot, we can change a lot, and we can find our own successes by doing our things in the ways that we believe in. And if there's that kind of conviction and that kind of drive to do something different, do it. Do it intelligently, and do it, in a way that is going to work for you. But the trick is to do it. It's easy to do the same things, to fall into the traps, and to go, man, in order to make this movie, I have to do these things. You don't. It's a movie. You can literally do anything you want. Literally anything you want. You don't have to do the same things. And again, like I said, I'm not criticizing anybody that is doing these things, if you like them and you believe in them, that's awesome. They do work. But the people that are going to stand out are the ones doing things that are different. You know, look at Jordan Peele again. You know, he's doing things that are wildly different than we are used to. You know, it's not just a killer running around with a machete. It's not just people running away from certain things, like like a life or death type situation. It's going to different places and getting there in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So you may feel similar things, but it's taking a different path to get there. So just remember that you can literally do anything. There's no rules, no limit. Make something yours. And I think that can resonate with people. Because again, look at Nirvana, look at Black Sabbath, look at the Beatles. Look at all these amazing bands that came out of nowhere, and they made it big doing something different that they believed in.
And you also named bands that shaped culture. They changed culture. I mean, those are bands that changed so much and everything. And a couple, actually, and a few of those bands changed it a couple times. I mean, you got Black Sabbath that ushered in metal. You have the Beatles that changed. I mean, Elvis a little bit did a little bit of this, but changed like teenage culture. And then Nirvana successfully killed glam rock. So literally took it out back and it gave it two on the back of the head. So I mean they
interesting choice of words, Mark.
It's pretty fucking true. Dude, Bret Michaels is like that fucking band destroyed my career, and I'm like, no, you did that to yourself. When you ran your fucking Ferrari into a tree and made a sex tape with Pamela Ann, you became a parody of yourself. But nonetheless, but they changed culture.
Yeah, right, and I think that's important. I think it's important for things to evolve, because if we have the same thing over and over and over again, there's going to be a point where it just ends, because we've seen the same things, we've done the same things, and people have become exhausted. So I love to see people push. I love to see people push boundaries to do their own thing that they believe in, and to do things their own ways, to do things differently, just to really push that creativity, to dig deep, and to find, like, everybody has been scared by a killer in horror movies. Like there's always the person that's, or there's always the entity that's doing the scaring, and then there's the one that's receiving the scare. But how do we take that down a different road? What's a different path to, you could still have the scare and the scary, right? But what's a different way to get there? To fuck with people's emotions and perspectives about what's scary. So I think taking a really deep dive into that sort of thing could be really, really exciting. That's the kind of stuff I look forward to. Is I like to see things that are really different, and I think there's a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of that's coming out of like out of Korea. We started seeing a lot of those types of things that are just totally messing with people's heads by and doing it in a unique, sometimes bizarre way. Like Parasite, for example. That was just brilliantly done. And it was strange and unsettling, and it just kind of came out of nowhere.
It's always the ones that change culture and change perspective. The Final Girls did that for me. Was one of the first times where I said that horror could have an emotional center, have an emotional gravitas that can actually pull at the heartstrings, and get people to give a shit. So I mean, so long story short, it's the horror community taking risks in order to change culture. As a long story short type of deal. So Zach, what is something that you would like to see?
I guess more interactive horror experiences, like with the haunted houses and stuff. You're just, for the most part, you're just walking through a place, and no one's gonna touch you, fuck with you, or do anything like that. It's pretty simple. And when you know that, the scare is kind of gone, at least for most of us normal horror fans. Other people, it's a different story. I want something where they can interact with me, and I can also interact with them.
That might
Kind of a give and take thing here. Like, I don't know, like just give me like a fake knife or something like that, and I got to survive like a bunch of psychopaths or something like that. Do a quick slash, you kill one. Just something interactive. Or this is kind of been my suggestion for some haunted houses. Like, I want to see something where it's like you go in, you let the first group go in or whatever, and you may hear shit or whatever, but you wait a few seconds, and then the guy's holding you. You wait, and then the guy just tells you, run. Why? Run. Why? And then maybe somebody comes out of back wielding a real chainsaw or something to add to the intensity, and you're like, fuck! Just something interactive, cool, that's fun. I want interactivity. Like, I like immersion and interactivity. Those are the key things there. Immersion and interactivity.
I think there needs to be more of a mix between escape rooms and haunted houses. A lot more interactive with shit you can fuck with in the environment, and that actually directly correlates with what's going to happen next. You flip a switch, one door opens and another door closes. That type of thing. Which is fucking awesome. I'm gonna expand upon that, and I think that I think the horror community needs to get more involved in the theme park industry. And and I remember this because there was a rumor floating around for a long time, and it really pisses me off that it never happened, was that Universal Studios was considering actually making a legitimate Spooky Island from Scooby-Doo. A legitimate one that like people can like actually go to, an island that would be modeled after the Spooky Island from Scooby-Doo, which I'm a huge fan of that fucking movie. I think it's ridiculous fun. But I think that there needs to be more of a all year round horror experience within the theme park industry. I don't know where that fits in. I have several ideas, but I think that there needs to be more of a all year round experience for those horror fans, not just outside of the, and I think that I want, and just more of, I think this is a cultural thing that I want to see the horror community invest more in, is that there are 11 months in the year. I'm sorry, 12 months. We don't need to just be, on for 1 month and then off for the other 11. When it comes to, everybody's all about October, all about Halloween, which I fucking love Halloween. It's awesome. But there needs to be more of a focus of handling the other 11 months of the year, because it doesn't seem like that there is as much when it comes to involvement throughout the entire year. It seems like so many people are just waiting for October to show up, and like then we go hard to the balls to the wall, and I'm like, I think maybe we need to spread this out a little bit more. I think we need to be a little bit more consistent across the board. And really, and of course the cons are all year round, and there are some holiday theme oriented things. But I think from a cultural perspective, I think we need to spread this out a little bit more and be involved in the rest of the 330 days of the year, and not just focus on that 30-day little mark area. So that's something I would love to see from the horror community, and really expanding outside of the 1 month and into the rest of the 11 months of the year. But definitely horror theme parks, I would be very, very interested in that, and that's how you do it. So awesome. Damon, thank you so much, man. This is your opportunity to look directly into the camera, tell people all about your, where they can find you, social medias, all about where they can look up Slasher and all that great stuff. It is your moment, sir. You can take it away.
Sure. So people can primarily find us at www.slasher.tv. They could also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and probably some other stuff at the Slasher app. And the new website is coming very shortly. It's coming this fall. So be on the lookout for that. Follow us for updates. We're definitely going to make this as good as we possibly can. We're going to add some really cool stuff to it. So yeah, I'm super, super excited for it. Very excited.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, man. It is always awesome. And we got it even deeper than we did before, a little bit more philosophical this time around. So we're very happy to have you. So thank you so much, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Nightmares Podcast. You can watch this podcast wherever podcasts can be found, on Anchor, Spotify, a couple other different ones. And, of course, you can watch us on YouTube. If you are watching any of our content on YouTube, if you'd be so awesome to stab that like button, smash that subscribe, and click that little dingy bell to be notified every time we drop amazing content right here on MHN. And of course, you can find us on all the wonderful social medias. Here we go. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and you can also find us on Zach Slasher. Ladies and gentlemen, the app for all things horror. Go and check out that app. And you can find us, like I said, on Midwest Horror Network there. And you can also find us on MidwestHorrorNetwork.com. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on the Nightmares Podcast. Bye, guys. We're going to wide and we're going to wave. Bye. So thank you so much.
Okay.
And then, Damon, real quick, I am actually going to